Oh, hey, Alice. How's it going?
Hello, hello, Alice.
Fancy seeing you here. You walked in at a good time. We got Bran from Sleep Nation.
What's up?
Yeah, we were just, talking about the universe and everything in between, in the middle. You know how we do it here. Um, that Bran has some stuff coming up soon. You got a show March 19th at Cobra, is that right?
That is correct. With a bunch of great bands, Big Jed's, Big Rigs. I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah, I actually
Uh,
just saw them last night at
oh, really?
Springwater.
Okay, yeah, man. They're crazy. Like
Yeah.
that they're they're pretty wild. So I'm excited about that show. And um I'm gonna look. I gotta make sure that I have this all correct here before I start talking about people. Oh, Scattered Hamlet will be headlining the show, and also Slump Test. So it'll be
Right
exciting to
on.
play with those guys.
Right on, man. That sounds like a good show for sure.
I hope
Um,
so.
and then you've got another one April 2nd at East Room, right?
Yes. And that's with Not Your Nails, Nine Inch Nails tribute, which I will playing double duty that night. I will be playing guitar with them and singing and playing guitar with Sleep Nation. So, and then we have We're Gonna Be Friends, a White Stripes tribute playing that night. So it's that show's gonna be killer. I love the East Room, man. It's just like,
Yeah.
that was um the East Room was the first show that Joey and I played as a duo. The first like show, it was the first show we played as a duo, and the first show that we played back with like a live audience post COVID. And the like just the feeling in that room was probably one of the best shows I've ever played. I mean, everybody was just so hyped, and the feeling in that room, the energy, you know, you could just like reach out and touch the energy. It was great.
Yeah, that's a magical place, no doubt. Um, speaking of magic, here's a hard segue. Um, uh, this is fun to just bring up on the spot.
No, that's yeah.
Uh, what do you let's start here. What do you think happens after we die?
Hmm. That's a great question.
I like
Um,
to Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say real quick. I like to preface that too and say, I mean, like, who really knows? Like, no one really knows, you know? But I like to ask everybody because everybody seems to have different like inclinations or ideas about what could happen.
right. Uh, for just just as this, like whenever I was 12, I lost my mother to cancer. Um, and which, still affects me today. And I would like to think that I would see her again, after I cross over that dark, um pass over the veil, or whatever you want to say, cross
Over
over
the
to the
other
other
end of
side.
that roller
Yeah,
coaster.
yeah. So I would like to, say that I will see her again. So Because man, any other option's a pretty dark option. You know,
Yeah, no, I agree. And I
what's
think,
your thoughts?
um, I think, I mean, I so I think I have a better idea of where we come from. I'm not so sure so much as to how we die, well, or what
Hmm.
happens after we die, but the 2 are kind of, together. So before I get into that, let me ask you where, I guess, uh, what do you think, I mean, I guess, how do I say that? Do you think you exist before you're born?
Mm, that is a great question,
Yeah,
and I don't know if I've ever really pondered that. Like,
yeah,
I think my mind's exploding on this Zoom call right now. Like, I've never really, to be honest with you, I have never had anybody ask me that, nor have I ever pondered that.
well,
And it's almost a little trippy just thinking uh the vastness of that question to, because like I do think about the moment of self-realization in this world, in my current like state, the earliest memories that I have are like 5 years old and up. So, like past 5 years, past 5 years old, I really can't remember that well. So, I have no, like, I just don't remember that stuff.
mhm.
So
Someone
I don't
told me
know.
once that they think, that babies know everything when they're born, and then they start forgetting things. I was
Hmm.
like, "Whoa." Um, I think, I think that we, like you and I and everyone else,
Hmm.
are literally the same person.
Hmm.
And it we can call it, like, it would be God. We can call that God. And that thing, it created all this
Hmm.
to because that's all there he it
Hmm.
was all there was, and that was like profoundly lonely. So we created this uh in order to forget that we're alone. And
Hmm.
uh, and I think really the only differences between people are the experiences you have. And uh well, not only that, but like what your parents bring into it, like your
Hmm.
biology. Um
Hmm.
yeah. Uh
That's a really cool I've never heard that one. That's pretty awesome.
uh yeah, I was that's something. And I always take experiences like this, as what they are, just an experience. But that was something that was shown to me on a DMT trip I had.
Oh
Uh
wow.
and it was very much so like it wa- it wasn't like told to me, it was shown to me. Kind of
Hmm.
like, and it was at that point, it was kind of hard for me to like argue with that, because it's like it's right in front of your face. And that
Wow.
was that was just kind of a shock. But also, that was a jerk trip. So
Yeah, man.
yeah.
That's that's pretty crazy.
um and I think, and then that raises the question, right? Like, I'm not so sure this is the first iteration of that. We might already be in a matrix of our own making, or something.
I had a feeling that I didn't know that we were going to turn this corner this quickly, but have you watched A Glitch in the Matrix on Hulu?
I haven't.
It's a docu. Oh, phew. like you have to be, I believe that you have to be pretty, confident in your own personal reality in order to like watch this, because it was it was intense. I mean, uh they interviewed this one uh guy who had murdered his parents. He was like so obsessed with the Matrix and so engulfed in like the Matrix universe that he did not believe that he was, in a physical realm, that he was in a simulation, and he was, I guess, attempting to break out of that simulation, and he murdered his parents.
I wonder if that worked out for him.
He's currently serving jail time, and yeah.
Doesn't
um
sound like it.
no, it was that, like, and it was kind of weird because they were like teetering the line of like, you know pushing that, like at the beginning of it, they were like, yes, like they were pointing to all these things and interviewing these people that were, showing, like, pointing signs that we're living in a simulation. And then at the end, they were like showing the atrocities and like deep, dark, uh, roads that can turn into believing that you live in a simulation,
Mm.
such as that situation.
I mean,
Or,
like, yeah,
you
just
know,
madness.
right.
Right. Like, you seen Inception?
Oh yeah, yeah.
There was that part where she thought she was in a dream
Hmm.
and she leapt out the window. Inception
Yeah,
spoilers, 2006.
yeah. It's okay.
But
Spoiler alert.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, like kind of stuff like that could happen. It's like, oh, this is just a matrix. I can just I'll get out of it by killing
Hmm.
myself or something.
Mm.
Yeah, that's yeah, for sure. That could I can see how that information could cause a panic. But here's the thing about that. If we're in a
Oh,
matrix, that that almost implies, at least to me, that the thing outside of this is probably not as good.
well,
Other
I
otherwise, why
do
would
want to
we be here? Sorry, go
I
ahead.
do want to share this one story right after I watched this. So, in this documentary, A Glitch in the Matrix, which I recommend everyone to check it out because it's done very well. Um, so there was a story, and this guy said that he was like a software developer, and he got to spend a lot more time working at home, and he started cataloging these events that would occur that he believed was in direct result of a simulation. So, like, he would think of someone and then they would appear in the next couple of days. You know, it was almost like he had control of his simulation somewhat. So he started cataloging it in like Google Drive, and all these instances were just, like he would almost like could create uh people in his reality. And so,
Manifestation.
yeah, exactly. And well, so I thought about this for some reason. This teacher that I had in high school, I haven't seen in like 20 years almost, So I've been out of high school for like almost 20 years. And I thought about this teacher shortly after that, or around the time that I watched that documentary. And I was driving on the interstate going back home, and I look over, and the teacher that I was thinking about is like right next to me on 24, and I haven't seen her in like 20 years. And I was like, okay.
Mm.
this is not fun. Like, this is kind of messing my, um, this is messing me up a little bit.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Now that you've had time since then, does it still bother you?
No, I mean, it doesn't, like, no, I don't believe so. I mean, I'm satisfied with, uh, potentially living in a simulation if that's where we're at. But,
I think
uh,
that kind of information is really interesting to me. Like, I'm definitely gonna. I wrote it down so I can watch it as soon as we're done. But the that yeah, the idea like, okay, so what are the implications of that? What can you do with that ability? Like that guy in the documentary, you know?
yeah, uh,
It's like
I don't know.
yeah, what are the limits of human potential? It's interesting.
But on the flip side, I feel like that if I was that in control of my simulation, that Sleep Nation would be as big as U2 right now. And unfortunately, we're not there yet. So
You
I don't have that much control over my simulation.
you want to get on
Um,
that like forced Spotify playlist level of fame.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. You
I guess
remember
it
when
would.
you I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, you remember when you two dropped that album and it was like automatically downloads for you?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Spot
yeah. Yeah.
It's like that level of fame where they force it.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, uh, and I'll go and apologize. I'm like a diehard U2 fan, so whenever everybody was complaining about that album, I was like, man, okay, like listen, I was like trying to tell people, it was like, U2 came down from like their throne to give you this album for free, and you guys are worthless. Like, you're not even respecting this great piece of art that they gave to you from their God-given golden hands, and y'all just like trying to delete that off your phone. Give it up. And it's not my favorite U2 album by any means. It's probably like my least favorite, but still, you know.
when you say it like that, that's the other side of the coin, other perspective
Yeah.
I hadn't considered. So,
But
yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with people disliking U2, because if you were, if you lived in like the 2000 era of U2 and like Bono and his uh overarching need to save Africa, then I understand that a little bit. But if you can remove your brain from staying within that and concentrate more on like the late 80s, early 90s era U2, then you should be fine. So,
Mm. The yeah, I think it was just like the repetition because it would come on automatically if I just hit all on my
oh
thing and it
yeah,
would just so
yeah,
you just listen to it against my will if I'm not close enough to change it. That's
yeah.
okay though.
It wasn't their
There's
best effort.
it,
It was probably their. It's definitely not one that I'm like, man, I can't wait to get home and listen to that. But
there's worse music to be subjected to.
oh, oh yeah, yeah, that's true. That's funny. Yeah, uh, I'm surprised no one is. Since that sat like had such a bad or just a bad reception, I believe overall, that I don't believe that anyone else will ever do that again. Or attempt that type of um release, as far as like streaming or
Mm,
whatever.
yeah, it's like it's not the same thing at all, but it kind of reminds me of when Radiohead put out that album that was crowdsourced, and it was like one of the first.
Oh,
first
Yes.
bands to do that. It was like a
Yeah,
huge deal.
In Rainbows
Yep,
is that
thank
out
you.
man, my favorite Radiohead album.
Hmm,
Man,
yeah,
that that Radiohead album was so good, and I was like, you can literally pay anything for this album. And shortly after that, Trent Reznor with Nine Inch Nails did the exact same thing. Uh,
nice.
they, they really changed or I had a feeling like that was really going to change the game up, but looking on it now, it didn't really change. It's like they did that, and now they're like back with labels.
Mm,
So, or at least Trent Reznor is. I mean, maybe it allowed them to uh create a better deal, but
yeah,
it didn't change anything.
I think
I don't think.
maybe it's like they proved they can do it on their own, but
Hmm.
then what happened is, like you said, the record labels were forced to give better contracts, so
Right.
then it's
Right.
like they make more money that way, which is good on them, you know? Like,
Yeah.
good for artists making their money.
And I
Yeah.
don't believe either of those two bands really have to make, they could literally like stop making music today and just, tour, or not even, they wouldn't really have to tour, but they could just tour on their past catalog and
Mhm.
be perfectly fine. But both of those bands are still making music today, and it's still just as interesting as it was back then. So,
Yeah. I think, when it comes to making art, uh, we all kinda it's not something we were doing for, like, necessarily fun or for money in the first place, you know? So, like, when you hit it big, it's like, why would you stop for some,
yeah.
if your heart was in the right place? Because it's like, 9 albums deep,
Hmm.
you're y what like, there's nothing else. You're like, that's how you're drilled to be. It's like you don't know anything else. Yeah.
I mean, for my instance, as I spoke about earlier, my mother passed away when I was 12, and I just, with the depression and dread and just darkness that comes with that, uh, I had to find a way to just um, overcome that. And thankfully, I was introduced to a lot of great bands thanks to my aunt, my mother's sister, who got me into Pink Floyd and Rush, and um, just a lot of great music at that time. And then like picked up the guitar at age 14 and haven't looked back since. And I'm just super, thankful that I was able to find music and find a way to deal and cope with that, um with that depression. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's still I still use music as a coping mechanism. And it's also just, I've done it for so long now, it's like, oh, I don't know what else to do. I don't like do anything else. But
That's, something I was just talking about with a friend of mine is when it comes to making art, I think there's, like, 2 ways to do it really, and it
mhm,
comes down to, like, there's people like you that you just described where it's like something happened and the artist is trying to express that and convey what they're going through in some
mhm,
way through some medium. And you know, it's really that, and that's it's great when that takes off and like gets money behind it, but that was never the objective. The objective was to get this message out, this
mhm,
this thing. And then the other way to do it is like they have these like completely engineered pop songs that they know
mhm,
exactly what grooves in the brain are going to hit to make you
mhm.
repetitiously listen to this song. And there's an art to that too, right? Like, masterfully manipulating the brain that way.
Yeah. As much like I like was reluctantly to agree with you that that was art, but it's like, okay, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm a glutton for
Yeah.
some great pop music. I mean, one of the first like artists that I like got uh turned on to when I was like 7 years old was Phil Collins. So and not that any of that pop music was necessarily manufactured or anything, but
No, not Phil
he
Collins.
not necessarily,
Yeah.
but it's pop music. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
candy.
For sure. For sure. I get, yeah. And then, yeah, yeah. I feel like it's more of a more recent thing where it's like so in your face how manufactured it is. I guess where it's like I listen to Phil Collins and I don't feel like they're trying to sell me on this so hard as I'm
Right.
just vibing to it. I guess that means it's working. So,
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
have you watched the documentary This Is Pop on Netflix?
Uh-uh.
It's great because they actually get into exactly what you're talking about with the boy band era.
Mm.
Boys to Men, they were are you familiar with Boys to Men?
Um, Probably if I heard one of the songs. No.
Okay. Well, they started in like the 90s. They were an African American, like
Mm.
almost kind of throwback
Okay.
Motown vocal group.
I think I
They
know who you're talking about.
they grew up, they grew up together. They were like went to school together. It was a natural cohesion of like musical influences that they created Boys to Men, and they became famous from they went to they went to like somebody's show that was popular, and they gave them their tape, and that's how they got signed. And so that was you know it was like a natural and honest group. Like they were like the first of their, or they were kind of bringing back something new, but they also, or bringing back something old, but they made it new. And then on the flip side of that, outsiders looking in saw how successful they were, and they thought they could manufacture that. And
Mm.
I guess they did, because those people that like the man behind NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears uh is like all in the same, like it's just one guy that's like all behind that entire, like era of pop music, and it was all recorded in one studio by like one producer.
Wow.
Yeah. The It's the country that ABBA is from, that they flew Backstreet Boys and NSYNC out to this one recording studio, and it's pretty much all from one guy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's. I was like, whoa. You don't. It's like when you think of like the '60s and the '70s and the '80s, most of that stuff was pretty natural, and the '90s was pretty natural. But I mean, of course, there were manufactured groups um, that were, but I still feel like that there was some originality in that manufacturing. But this was just like pure manufactured pop, like you said. Um, and that was the first of that. And I don't really know if we've, gotten out of that.
You know, I think the problem I'm realizing over the course of this conversation is like when you can tell, when you
Hmm.
can tell how I manufactured it is, I guess. And I'm like, I'm not a music guy is the funny thing. Like, but I love music. I
Mm-hmm.
go to lots of shows and, talk to lots of musicians about music. But so I kind of, understand it from an outsider's perspective, and I like to get a wide variety of music to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But s but, like, I feel like, you know, even, like, just from a passing glance, sometimes you can tell how yes, this would get a lot of people's attention, but is, there's nothing in it. It's very empty, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
else to put it.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm still stuck. Most of the stuff that I listen to currently is doesn't rarely go past like 1999. Not that I'm against, you know, music made in the past 20 years. I'm just, uh, and also I guess it's like getting older, but I've kind of always been stuck in older music, except for I will admit that my like first compact disc that I bought was Smash Mouth Astro Lounge. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I didn't start out listening to really good music,
me either.
um, but I did have MC Hammer on cassette tape. I'm pretty proud of that.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I I mean, I think I grew up listening to Yellow Card, Good Charlotte, My Chemical Romance.
Hey, I enjoy that stuff. I
Yeah,
I had all their, I bought
yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah, Linkin Park, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the extent of my music knowledge until, I got older. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that stuff. I mean, I've seen Yellow Card live and they put on a great show.
Oh, I bet, man. I still vibe to that.
Yeah. Um,
Um, so where are you from originally?
Born and raised Middle Tennessee.
That's what's up. Me too.
Oh, cool.
Well, I was actually born in Huntsville. Um,
Okay.
and then I was born and raised in Fayetteville, Tennessee.
Hmm.
And then when I turned 18, I moved out and popped over to Columbia, and I spent 5 or 6 years there. And I spent a couple years over in Winchester, and then finally made my way to Nashville.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like some people that were born in Tennessee absolutely despise it, but you know, I I mean, I feel like that, I still enjoy Tennessee, but I guess because it's just familiar and, most of my family lives here, so.
Something I think we all take for granted, like those of us that grew up here,
Mhm.
is how beautiful it is. Because this is
Mhm.
such a beautiful place we live. It's so like any drive you go on is just miraculous. And then
Yeah.
people say that when they come here, if they're not
Mhm.
from it, like I guess the whole Appalachia is like that. But
Yeah.
um no, it's such a beautiful place. I miss it if I'm gone too long.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like just, I flew out to Denver, Colorado to drive my cousin back from college, and we made the drive from Denver to uh back into Nashville, and I mean it was a really I never that was a lot of the country that I hadn't seen, like within the view of a driver's seat. And I mean, like the US has a very diverse ecosystem, and it's really great to kind of go out and see kind of that stuff because it's like super diverse. And Middle Tennessee has like the most diverse vegetation of anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, or like because of of the way the climate is, and just um as far as there's like more diverse plants can live in this area than like anywhere else on the world. So I mean, it's a pretty special place.
Yeah. There's yeah, there's a lot of energy here. Like I know Nashville and a few other places um were built on top of burial mounds.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And there's
So
like
so like a pet cemetery situation.
yeah, like
Ugh.
basically like natives didn't settle in that area. They just brought their dead,
Hmm.
and settlers came and
Yeah.
propped up a city there. And
Yeah.
yeah, um like I've had different people tell me that it's a kind of energy well that it can be hard to get away from too. Like once you move to the not just I don't think that's necessarily just true of Nashville, maybe this entire area. It's like there's something I think every area has an energy to it. You know, anywhere you go has a certain vibe, people act a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, if you're paying attention and you got your eyes open, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I was gonna ask you that in a minute.
Okay.
So I believe so. So that is. Have you ever heard of chaos magic?
No, I've not.
So what I believe is I believe I've communicated with spirits on a multitude of occasions. But chaos magic is this system of like instead of getting hung up on whether these things are external or you're just
Mm-hmm.
talking to yourself and having some kind of delusion, instead of it
Mm-hmm.
getting hung up on that, it focuses more on practicality of like what can you do? Like what is the extent of your ability? Um, that being said, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Uh, but so that's my belief is yes, I do believe there are a multitude of different kinds of spirits. I think there are ghosts. I think um, there are aliens to our dimension, not just extraterrestrial, but like from another plane of some
Yeah.
kind. We can call them demons, we can call them reptiles, but they're foreign from here. I don't necessarily think all of them are ghosts. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's another, and then there's another thing that I think what we imagine, uh, what we distinguish from reality, you know, the imagined. I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe that also exists somewhere. So what happens is if me and you and 100 other people all congregated around our new God and we built an altar to it, all of our imaginations are focused on this one thing, creating and collaborating together to create this thing that I think actually has an energy and actually exists, just not in our space.
Hmm.
So I think there's three kinds of those. Or I think it's important when dealing with that kind of stuff to keep in mind that all of this is could just be in your head. Like nothing should ever be so concrete because what do we know as humans, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We're so
Oh yeah.
and that's another rabbit hole to go down we can, but I think also that there's very little distinction between what is in your mind when you're dealing with spirits. A part of it is in your mind because that's how you're communicating with it.
Mm-hmm.
So a part of you is imagining it. It's it's complicated and, like, hard to explain really, but, uh, it's a mix of both. It is real and it's not real.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's do you believe in ghosts?
Uh, well, I have one theory. What I believe that most people experience with ghost, or what they think is ghost. I think that everyone that's existed on this earth and are existing are almost on this massive like recorder, if you will, because when people see ghosts or apparitions or we'll just stick with ghosts right now. What do they usually see them doing? They usually see them doing like normal task. You know, they're not really necessarily interacting with the the physical realm. They're almost like stuck in doing something that they've always done.
Mm,
And I almost it's just a theory, you know. I just always kind of thought that this was uh made sense to me, that it's almost that whenever people see that they're just seeing uh a VHS replication of like a task being done by a past entity that just keeps on being replayed. And sometimes that, you know, the veil is kind of slipped back and they see this, you know, they see this event. uh you know, I've never seen any apparition or entity or ghost, you know, myself. My stepmother and my dad, they have a bed and breakfast, and my stepmom has told me countless of, you know, stories of uh like doors being open, people that stay there, you know, say that like they're like, did somebody stay upstairs? And my stepmom's like, no. It's like, well, we heard somebody up there. So like there's some heavy activity. And I've been there by myself, you know, like back when we were working on the bed and breakfast. Uh, you know, I've been spent many a time like painting the house by myself down there. Um, my wife and I've stayed there, but I've never experienced anything. I guess because I don't have that, you know, um, I'm not like a good conductor for that. But I'm okay with that. I don't I don't believe I would feel too comfortable uh you know, experiencing at least with an entity that I'm not familiar with.
mhm.
Um I mean, I've had experiences that have, you know, changed my life, and I wrote a song about it, but uh I've never, you know, come face to face with a an apparition or an entity or a interdimensional being or anything like that. So,
Um, the theory about the ghosts on the records, that's the first time I've heard that, and that's really interesting. I never thought about it like that. Um, and the other thing I was gonna say is I was raised like really religiously,
mhm,
and when I turned 18, I was kind of your stereotypical like hot topic atheist uh, kid, just kind of
mhm,
with n- I was like upset with Christianity because it was forced down my throat as a
right,
kid.
yeah, yeah, I totally understand that.
And that I was I was basically an atheist at that point in time. And I went through a phase where um I was like, okay, well, I want to see if there's anything out there.
Mhm,
And because I was at the same point where I had never seen anything or experienced
mhm,
anything supernatural. So it wasn't until I went looking for it and actively like seeking it out that I experienced anything like that.
hmm.
Um yeah.
Mm.
It's it is the first. So I think with anything in life, and that includes any kind of magic you do, the most important thing is intention. Before you do anything, you need to know what you want to do and have a game
Mhm.
plan. Um, when it comes to spirits, you really don't know who you're interacting with. Um, so you want to give them a limited, uh, like a limited authority of what's going on. Like I've
Mhm.
had spirits come into my body and um I've had it like, use my arms. But I've always kept it in my head that at any point I can stop it. And I don't
Mhm.
have a problem doing that. At least I haven't in the past, where if at any point I feel uncomfortable, I can just take control back. And um I think control is the most important thing with that kind of stuff, because these things can't necessarily hurt you, but they can trick you through fear and manipulation. They if you're afraid of it and you feel like you're not in control, then you're not in control anymore.
Mm.
Um, so I think the opposite can be true too. If so that's actually it's my understanding that's where the concept of a wand comes from. Um, it's a pointy object to show a demon and be like, "Get back. Don't fuck with me."
Mm.
Because he doesn't know you can bluff. You can be like, "I'm gonna shoot a fireball at you." And like that's the theory anyway, is to like suppress that, take charge of the situation.
Mhm.
Um and I think I have a healthy this is how people, get really messed up, is like I don't necessarily recommend that, you do any of the things we're talking about, Alice, because like there have definitely been moments where I didn't necessarily feel in control. And like when I first started like messing with that. So the like I was saying earlier, the important thing is intention. Know what you want going into it. If you just want to experience something, then that's pretty feasible. Um, have you ever used the Ouija board before?
No, I don't. I wouldn't feel comfortable delving into that realm. I kind
Yeah.
of I feel like that. Uh, I feel like that realm, that I have no business delving into that side of the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, and there's no shame in that for sure, because it sounds like you have a healthy respect for it, and it's better to err on the side of caution than to be careless and reckless with that. Like I was fortunate that I didn't have anything too awful happen to me um
Mm.
when I was dabbling in that starting out. It's like, do some research if you're going to get into that, Alice. Like read some books on stuff. It's all in your mind, and that's kind of chaos magic is kind of the belief that belief itself is power, so it doesn't really matter
Mm.
what you put your belief into as long as you believe in something. So what's really obnoxious is a chaos magician would point to any form of practice or faith like, "Oh, you're worshiping this god over here." What you're actually doing is you're putting your power into that object and then getting it back from it. And that's chaos magic. It's like, "Oh, that's chaos magic. That's chaos magic."
Mhm. Mm.
It's supposed to be like just more like a simplified idea of how it's more like ignoring it all of the fluff and trying to just get at the like root of how to operate, I guess.
Hmm.
That's my chaos magic rant.
No, okay. Yeah, I mean, I just that's a new one. I haven't really, got into that. Like, um, I feel like that whenever I was really heavy into researching, most of the stuff, I was kind of getting into, like conspiracy theories, like 101, like JFK and um, like the moon landing and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I didn't really delve too much into. Um, of course, I do. Interdimensional beings and aliens. That's always good stuff. So
Yeah. Um, and all that's tied together too. You know,
yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with like JFK's last speech
Oh yeah.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Uh, yeah, it actually it breaks my heart. There's a Malcolm X speech I really like right before he was killed. Um, I look back, like, I see the 60s and the 50s and, way back, like, way, way back. But all these people seeing this beast, seeing this monster,
Hmm.
and trying to speak out against it and getting killed in public, getting
Hmm.
killed like, "Hey, fuck you, this is what happens when you speak out against us." In
Hmm.
cold blood in front of next to your wife and children, or while you're giving a speech and 5 different people shoot you. Just to let everyone know that we can get away with whatever we want. Or like Jeffrey Epstein,
Yeah.
we can do whatever the fuck we want. We can kill whoever we want. We'll do it in public. We don't give a fuck. And it really it breaks my heart because this is a fight that's been going on way longer than I've been born.
Yeah.
And I'm that's a big part of why I started doing this is just doing my small part to speak out. But I can't lie, like it disheartens me when I see that it doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. It doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm being pessimistic. What do you think?
No, that's why I kind of had to like stop, you know, listening to interviews and listening to podcasts and reading, in like delving into all this stuff because it was just it it is truly depressing. Because at the end of the day, you don't there's not a whole lot of light at the end of the tunnel, and uh it's just even if there's still not a whole lot of light at the end of the tunnel, even if all the stuff that we're kind of like talking about is not even if JFK's assassination happened, like the media says it was, and if the moon landing was real, and all the conspiracies that you can go across, if if all that is exactly as they said it was, I mean, at the end of the day, the light at the end of the tunnel is still not too bright. So, but yeah, so I mean, I just for personal reasons, and I guess it just kind of like getting into that stuff just kind of reinforced my love for music, because it's like, man, if I spend most of my time working in music, that I'm not concentrating on this like dark uh these dark topics and like kind of um depressing topics. But I've kind of have had to get back into conspiracies because Sleep Nation is working on the first issue of our brand new comic book.
Nice.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
And the short paragraph of our comic book is Sleep Nation alternative rock band mixed with X Files. So
Hell yeah. That's what's up. That's awesome. You had a music video come out not too long ago too, right?
yeah, Spaceman.
Nice.
Yeah, with featuring Daisy Dead from the Dead Deads.
Oh, hell yeah.
Uh, yeah. So have you listened to the Spaceman?
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't, sorry, I couldn't, the name of the song escaped me for a minute, but yeah, I was
No,
listening to it earlier.
did you? I figured you probably catch my you know, moon landing hoax references there.
Yeah.
You know,
I was like,
uh,
oh, this is gonna be a fun time.
yeah, yeah. So, uh, and I'm okay with. I'm not like totally, sold. I kind of go back and forth on it, but at the end of the day, the U.S. has spent $650 billion since its inception of NASA, and I just feel like that we could use that money for a lot better than attempting to land a couple dudes on the moon and plant a flag there. Just because at the beginning it was all a big, oh, Russia's trying to do it. Well, no, no, wait a second. We're the greatest country in the world. We can't let them do. They can't be the first ones up there. So,
Meanwhile, our dipshit president is trying to start World War III in Ukraine.
oh
He's
man,
trying he's trying so hard. He's like, everyone, please, we have to get over to Ukraine. It's like,
uh,
please get on board with me on this. And like, I'm begging you. Fucking Russians suck. He's like, I'm kind of shocked to see our administration just so like, fuck you, Russia. Like, hey everyone, fuck the Russians.
yeah. I
Like, what the hell? Why are you doing that?
I you know, I just wish that there was like an anti-war party, because I feel like that there's not currently, you know, um, in the current landscape that there is, that essentially the way that um, it's been played out, that there's really, at the end of the day, there's only two parties, um, and both of those parties are pro-war. They used to not be. At least back in like the '60s, you could, the Democratic Party was pretty anti-war, from what I understand, and now there's like both parties absolutely love war because it's a moneymaker, and it is absolutely sick that you know we we're just so in bed with the military industrial complex that there's no end in sight, and the only way to, when your economy starts tanking, they see it as like, oh, it's probably time to get involved in some other war, so we can save ourselves from economic collapse.
Yep. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm sorry to be bringing you down, man, because I know you're trying to get away from all this kind of stuff.
No, it's
And
okay.
good on you, man. Like, cause you know, that's something I've realized is a big part of how they control us is fear. You can't let it control you. You can't.
Right.
You have to live your life. You have to be happy and just
Yeah.
do the things that you enjoy. And you know what, man? Like what you do, what y'all do, like, that is the best thing for society. That is the
Mhm.
best thing to help. We all have to make whatever difference we can. And, like, you know, music and, like, sharing your message is the most important thing you could do, man.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And it's uh I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of, I hate to, it's kind of a selfish reason, it's like, yeah, I want to be an influence and positivity on other people's lives, but at the end of the day, it's like I have to do this because, you know, number one, I don't really know what else I would do except for, hang out at the house and
Mm.
binge watch, Netflix and random documentaries, or I can like go work on this song and try to uh keep my mind busy, because it's like uh
And if you did just try to watch Netflix and chill,
yeah.
then if you did that long enough, then you'd get that itching, you would get that burning, and you would have
Hmm.
to go write something anyway. It would just
Yeah.
happen. You would have to.
Hmm.
That's Guys, I mean, there's no escaping it. That's all there is. Like,
Yeah.
yep, I feel you, man. Feel you on that. It's I've noticed recently something I've been struggling with is like my art is like really dark, but like kind of like caught up on the past kind of stuff,
Hmm.
like repeating the same kind of patterns and behavior. And I'm not so sure that like making the art is so healthy for me anymore. Because like at one point,
Hmm.
it's a way for me to release that. But now I'm wondering if like I'm getting caught up in a cycle by repeating this behavior. And it's
Hmm.
like, because it's not, as you know, making art is not always fun. It's not, most of the time, it's not, if it's genuine, it comes from the heart, like it hurts,
Hmm.
it comes from
Yeah.
somewhere real. So it's like, I don't know. On one hand, it's a release and it helps
Hmm.
me. But on the other hand, it's kind of like cutting, because you're digging at an old wound. And
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Uh,
That's a really man, like that's a really brutal way to look at uh art, I guess, because that kind of hits home with me right now. Because the album that we're going to release this year, so in like so Sleep Nation's been a band since 2010, and we recorded our first album in 2012, and it didn't get released until 2017.
mm,
And um a lot of those songs, no, every single one of those songs pretty much were not uh you know I wasn't it wasn't like me being straight up, honest about a lot of things that I've dealt with. And this album that Joey and I are working on now, which is going to be Sleep Nation's second release, is, you know, I'm just like no holds barred, just a lot. There's going to be a lot of songs, that I just haven't touched on some of that stuff. And like you said, I mean, you know, kind of spilling some blood on this stuff. And you're right. I mean, like for instance, we have we have a show Saturday, and um my wife and I, we adopted um 3 kittens uh
mm,
like 2 years ago, almost 2 years. And one that I got really close to, and wrote a song about him. uh for, I had an experience with this cat uh that I can best describe as a dream, if you will. uh that he told me this joke, and it was the funniest joke that I had ever heard in my life, and I could not stop laughing, and I just kept on laughing. And it was like, and I just looked at him, and then he, like telepathically told me this joke, and I just laughed for, what seemed like over an hour, and I was like crying and laughing, and I was like telling my wife and my in-laws about like how funny that this cat was, and he was the funniest, like the joke that he told me was the funniest, but I could never, it wasn't like it wasn't, like a joke that I can retell or anything. It was just something he like telepathically sent to me. And at that time, I like needed that. I needed that, you know, that laughter and positivity, because up to that moment, I was like getting so depressed about um not being not having a mother in my life, because I had like so many, it sounds weird, but I had so many great things happen to me all in the like a short period of time that I almost felt um unworthy of being uh able to experience, uh like getting married, and just and like getting a house, and I got this new job that I really enjoyed, and just all these great things were happening to me. And at the same time that this was going on, I felt unworthy, and uh that I was experiencing all this, and that my mother was not, you know, here to see me, accomplish all these things. And so I started like, talking to a therapist about it, uh and in that experience with my cat Crybaby, uh um he like that instance just, and after that all happened, I had this experience where I uh just felt so much like I felt that all the love that had ever been given to me in my life had uh that I felt in that one moment, and I like got a renewed uh a renewed passion for like life. And and I I felt like that I that my like mother was there in that moment, and she held my hand, and it was like it all started with that experience of my cat telling me this joke. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple weeks ago, uh but thankfully I still um I still have that song. And uh I don't know, it like that's just one of the songs, and like it's like I'm worried about playing that thing, because it's you know it's like the song started out in such a, and it's so wild because uh the chorus to the song is essentially the um it says, speak to me and breathe my friend and hold my hand until the end. And that's kind of what I had to do, uh you know in his like last moments. And it was almost prophetic, and I didn't know um that it was going to be that way, but it was. But I mean, that's just like one of the instances of that this new album, and I've got, just all the songs are just like straight up, just honest and raw, and like in a way that I've never, been comfortable
Mm.
with singing about. And so,
Well, thanks for giving us that, man. And rest in peace to Crybaby, man.
yeah, man, dude, I love that cat so much. He was, it's been rough around the house here lately, but I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get on that big rant,
No.
but
Hey, man,
uh,
no problem.
I don't know if you're an animal person, but
Just cats.
oh, well, that, hey, I I mean,
Yeah.
we're my wife and I, like, we've got 4 cats, and
Mm.
you know that's it's wild. How many cats do you have? Or do you?
I actually don't have any cats right now.
uh
Um, I'm envious of the 4 cat life.
oh, it's
Uh,
like I had to make sure and get home on time so I could scoop the poop and get on this Zoom call. So I was, it's a daily task of like,
Mm,
see, there I've been like trying to hide that
mm.
cat house there, that litter box there, of this entire time. I've kind of been like trying to hide it, but yeah, there's
That's the price of greatness.
yeah, like there's I think there's 5 litter boxes in this house, so yeah. But
Um, do you want to tell us what the joke was?
I don't know.
Oh,
It wasn't that's what I'm saying. It's so wild. Like uh it it was like a telepathic
Mm,
um it was like a
mm,
telepathic joke that was not spoken. It was
mm.
just like I just looked at him and I could not keep it together. Like I laughed for an hour. But yeah,
Mm,
I mean, but man, I totally believe that are if you're familiar with like how Egyptians um believe that cats were like a conductor for the spirit world.
mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I totally believe that, I mean, I think that uh I'm super thankful for that moment because man, I'll never forget it. And uh it caused me to write a song about it and totally changed my life. Because I was really down and probably the most depressed and down than I'd ever been. I don't know why, because I was so removed from uh it's been I'm 35 now, and let's see, when all that was like 2 years ago, so I was 33, and my mother had been passed away for like over uh you know like 20 years. And it's like um I don't know how it, but you can't really explain um depression or you know
Mhm.
or death or grieving. But um
And I don't see any good reason to get over that. Like that's the loss of a beautiful person. Like
mhm
why, that I'm not saying, mope around, obviously that's not healthy, but
mhm
like, that deserves to be remembered and honored.
yeah, yeah, I guess not. Yeah, no, I know I'm never going to be able to get over that, but I guess like be at be at peace with you know the current you know my current state of it's like. But I mean, in that one moment, in that experience with Crybaby, it pretty well uh distinguished pretty much all that pain in that one night, and it was pretty powerful.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
Um actually I was gonna tell you a story, but actually do you mind if I pause this and use the restroom real quick, take a quick break?
I would love that because I got to do the same.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Cool.
love to get back into it with you. Let's take a
Yeah.
maybe like a 5-minute break.
Sounds cool.
All right, see you back in a
All
minute.
right. See you.
We took a pee break, Alice. We're back.
Yeah. That was a much needed PP break,
Yeah.
if you will. And yes, I noticed Alex is wearing the Dangerous Method shirt. Shout out to Dangerous Method and the 20 Nashville bands that Joseph is in.
Yeah.
It's a friend. It's a friendly jest. It's only 7, but still,
Yeah,
uh,
only 7. Yeah.
nobody's counting. I'm pretty sure it's 7.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, yeah, those guys, they keep busy for sure. Shout out to Joseph Jared. He's the man.
Yeah. And his wife she's in like
Emily. Yeah.
yeah, Emily, she's in like 3 or 4 bands. I mean, she's in Hungry
Mm.
Mother and she's in Dangerous Method. Uh she's got to be in something else I can't think of right now.
Uh,
Um
Joseph and Emily were on the podcast a couple months ago. Talked
I'll
to
have to
him.
check. I'll have to listen to
Yeah.
that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
they're really great people.
they are definitely.
Um, I was, we were talking about depression, and I was gonna tell you a couple of quick things that happened to me that kind of have helped me with my depression over the last few years.
Hmm.
The first thing that happened, it was the first time that I ever took DMT, and uh this was back in like 2019,
Hmm.
and my friend had it in a crack pipe, and we were smoking out of a crack pipe. So like the
Oh,
bubbler of it got like,
yeah.
and like the thing was completely white, and I pulled it 3 times,
Hmm.
and then he told me to lay back, and I went back like whoosh 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 onto this bed I was laying on, and
Hmm.
the first thing I saw was there was this lime green circle, and in the middle of it was what looked it was like a slanted line like that, and
Hmm.
it looked like a goat's eye, and I realized I was looking at an eye. I guess maybe like a frog's eye. It was like a pupil, but it was slanted.
Hmm.
And and there was another one intersecting with it. So like it made like a plus sign. Um
Mm.
and so it I looked at it, and I was like, that's an eyeball. I was like, whoa. And when I did that, it looked at me, and its pupil dilated, like, whoa, what's that? And
Hmm.
we slammed into each other. And I blacked out. And um I guess I should have prefaced this story. I was going through like a breakup, and I was in a like kind of a pretty depressed place when
Hmm.
this happened. And I woke up in this field of grass, and I looked around, and I didn't have a body. And I heard this music in the distance. Well, I guess to back up a little bit, this is hard to explain, but when I got there, I'd always
Hmm.
been there. I'd always been
Mm.
grass.
Hmm.
And I slowly became aware of my ego, and I remembered being me. And
Hmm.
um, I was totally fine there until my ego returned. And I'm like, well, this isn't right. I'm not supposed to be in this situation.
Hmm.
And I heard music in the distance, and it was in a foreign language, but I understood the words.
Mm.
Like I understood what the words said. And like um this old Asian lady walks up the hill up to where I'm at, and the music gets louder, and she's singing, and she's playing this instrument. It's like a guitar, but it only has 2 strings, and it's like kind of box shaped. And she's playing this song, and she sits down, and she's not really playing it to me. She just, I'm just the grass. She's just playing it to herself on this day
Hmm.
up on a hill. And her song, like as she's singing it, it's putting me in the scenarios that she's singing about. And her first thing she's singing about is this single mom in this rice field somewhere, and like the crops aren't doing good, and she doesn't know she's got like 6 kids and she doesn't know how she's gonna feed them, and it's getting cold. And like as she's singing this, I feel their pain. Like I feel this I feel what it's like to be a single mom and not know how to feed my kids. And like it's like bearing down on me. Um like just this anxiety I've never experienced. And then she starts singing about this old man, and like he's got this wagon, and he's like carrying it into town, and like I can feel it breaking my back, and the sun's beating down on me,
Mhm.
and I know that I'm just going to sell what little stuff I have back here so I can get something to eat, and that's just how I'm surviving. And she starts going through other scenarios, and it gets to be too much, and I start blocking it out.
Mhm.
And I actually at a certain point I like start pleading with her to stop, like please stop. And she never stopped singing, but it's like she communicated with my mind, and she like kind of
Mhm.
let me know like I'm not going to stop. You're going to remember this for the rest of your life. You're never going to forget this. I'm going to
Yeah.
drill this into you. And um she showed me other scenarios, but I only have like bits and pieces of it because I did my best to kind of like shut all of it out.
Mhm.
And eventually it stopped and I came back, and my friend said, "Welcome back." And I immediately burst into tears and said, "I'm never doing that again." That was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
Um, but in retrospect, I really needed that because what she was showing me is that I have a really good situation where I'm at, and that I need to stop taking it for granted and do something of value with my life, like appreciate what I have.
Wow.
Yeah, which really helped me with my depression. That's actually it was right after that that I decided to start this podcast. Because I decided,
That's
well, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And
yeah.
like I love writing. Um, I've been writing a book I've been working on. Like I post it on Instagram as I'm writing it. I also do poetry. But bigger than that, you know, what I was thinking, what do I want more there? There's something more than that. And really, like I see a lot of like problems in the world that I think could be solved with a better education. So
Mhm.
my sole, purpose, and everything else is kind of secondary for me, is the acquisition and distribution of knowledge. Um,
Mhm.
are you familiar with Prometheus, the Greek god? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he brought the torch to mankind. Like they didn't,
Mhm.
and with that torch they were able to do all sorts of stuff. It's similar to the apple in the Garden of Eden, where they were handed this kind of divine knowledge from a source. Um, and this is a story that is repeated and shown time and time again throughout history. So
Mhm.
whenever people ask about like religion for me, I always say I worship Prometheus. I worship because he paid the price. Zeus didn't like that he gave
Mhm.
people fire and he chained him to a rock, but he gave us that anyway. And I
Mhm.
don't think that literally happened, but I worship that ideal. I worship that story.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of at the core of my philosophy.
You're a slave to truth is what
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No. I'm I'm with you.
I think and I've had different conversations with people about that too, where it's like, I don't think everyone's private information. I don't think, like your social security number should be public information. I don't think all knowledge should be like that. Like
Mhm.
like but I guess general knowledge should be freely and equally accessible. Um, I'm not saying that everything should be free. I'm not, like advocating for that by any means, but I think information and it, you know, that's what the internet is supposed to be about, you know, where you could find out, you know, the ultimate library and it's accessible
Mhm.
to everybody. That was supposed to be what it's about, but you end up with so much misinformation and you end up with things like Google with like censoring uh search requests that they don't like.
Have
Uh
you I know you've got your show. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
I know you have your shows on YouTube. Uh have you ever been censored?
No, we're not big enough to censor. I don't think
Okay.
they pay attention to us. Um
Hey, I mean, it seems like that if you kind of even, great at least with like Facebook, uh, you know, not trying I'm not getting into COVID or anything, but I know that, if uh you got that little like warning tag if you even like typed COVID in your, post. Not saying if you were whatever side aisle or on, if you're, either way, but I mean, they were still like, you, the, you were being gatekeeped, either way. So I was
yep.
just curious. Um,
Not personally, but it definitely happens. I mean, like we were
mhm.
talking about the ultimate censorship earlier when they killed Malcolm X and Kennedy. It's
Yeah.
like, and look at what they're doing to Joe Rogan, man. Look at what this
Yeah.
bullshit right now. Like
Yeah.
that's so I'm totally cool never getting famous. I'm totally cool just flying under the radar because and you know if it happens, it happens. Like if that's the position I'm put in, then you know
Mhm.
I'll bear that cross and I'm not gonna shut the fuck up for any amount of money or for any reason. Like Alice wants to learn, you know.
Mhm.
I want to learn too. That's the biggest, you know, like not I want to learn from you, Brandon. I want to learn from everyone else, and then you know I want to also tell Alice what I know, and
Yeah.
like you know that's how we all get together. I especially like to talk to people that you know I don't agree with, you know,
Mhm.
and talk because that's really what we're missing in this country and in this world is um people people having conversations that they don't agree on and even at the end of the day still don't agree on but can treat
Right.
each other civilly
Mhm.
without you know that be adults you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, that to your point, um, I think at one point in time that was celebrated uh that we could kind of work together and have different ideologies. Whereas like now it seems like if you don't if you don't think the way that, you know, media conglomerate A wants you to think, well, then you might be accepted by media conglomerate B, but uh, if not, then you're off on C or D or E or F or G. I know it's kind of a little tangent there, but it's just like uh, the human connection aspect. Like I used to be on Facebook. I got really motivated politically, like I guess in starting in college. I just started reading uh a lot of um I was big into like a lot of The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and I read I did a paper on Karl Marx, and I just started reading a lot of political uh theories and just really getting, I don't know, amped up about political things, and that carried over into my social media output. And I was just like, especially during, you know, Trump era, and I don't know, I was just like, I noticed that I was becoming really aggravated with people that I normally would, uh, like
Hmm.
family members that I normally wouldn't have an issue with, like seeing them post stuff on social media would, really just like start a fire in me and make me really aggravated. And, now it's like I had to remove myself and just stop, using Facebook as like my political soapbox because when, you're like you get so I see people like now because it's like I feel like I was a part of that being in on that political soapbox on social media that and I see other people doing, like doing it, what I was doing is like you're not partaking in like the human experience and you're not connecting with that person on a human level. You're letting the kind of going back to what we were first talking about, you're letting outside, negative energy, like negative, political energy that really doesn't have a whole lot of effect on your life at the end of the day,
No.
that you're letting that control you from, having relationships with, family members and friends. And it's like, man, that stuff at the end of the day, it does not matter whatsoever. It's like,
And yeah, and unfortunately, that's the entire goal is to divide us
mm,
and make us afraid. That's what they do. That's what that's what the whole entire agenda is about is to
mm,
cuz like I'm at a point, man, where and I thought in one of the previous elections like maybe it would have been a little different, but I'm
mm,
at a position where I think no matter no matter who sits in this seat,
mm,
it's left, right,
mm.
it's one entity with 2
Oh yeah,
hands,
yeah.
and I think they let us know that with Kennedy, like, Kennedy
Mm,
might have been the real last president we had, and then after him, everyone that sat in that chair, no matter what their intentions were getting into office,
mm.
as soon as they sit down, they're debriefed on all of the crazy shit that
Yeah.
no one gets to know, and they're like, "Okay, we'll kill you and we'll peel your children's faces off if you ever talk about this."
Have you listened to that Bill Hicks bit
I love
about,
Bill Hicks.
yeah, have you listened to Bill Hicks bit about that?
Uh-uh.
Where he's like, they, they bring in their newly elected president, and they put him in this dark room, and there's this guy smoking on this big cigar, and he's like, piping on it real heavy, and then this slide projector comes down, and then they show this projection of like a shot from a different angle of the grassy knoll that's but never been seen, and then it scrolls back up, and then the guy with the big, cigars pipes on it some more and is like, any questions? And then, it's like,
Yeah,
man, they're all a
that's
part.
it.
Like, it's like, what's so funny that you just said is like Kennedy was the last, uh, like
Real
great
president.
real president. Like,
Yeah.
for actually, like, I've had two people, uh, from like different upbringings and different decades that they were born say the exact same thing to me. And I was like, man, that's kind of wild that uh that they both would say that, because I don't know, it just, I mean, it's true. I mean, I he I don't believe Kennedy was like a, I mean, you probably can't like count him as a totally morally upstanding, but I believe that yeah, he was definitely the last president of the American people.
Well, it's kinda like, Bill Clinton getting his dick sucked is the
Mm.
least of my concerns, you know? It's like why are we talking about this? This seems like a what do you call it?
A sop. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like it's like I swear I didn't have relation. No one gives a shit. Like, and the people
Yeah.
that do are brainwashed. That no, like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like, you're just covering up for all the fucking bullshit you're doing.
Hmm.
It's
What
like, yeah,
what I probably the funniest thing, and not even bringing his politics into question here, but like President Obama was probably, as far as like on the outside, looked to be the um pretty, a morally upstanding person, was as far as like on the outside, had like been married to the same woman, had kids, didn't, stray from his wife or anything like that.
I
And
didn't inhale.
yeah, and still like is hated by like everyone on the right. So it's and then they, and then it's like they roll in Trump, who is like the last like uh person that you would ever think that the religious right would ever elect into office, but here he is, you know. Oh man,
Yeah,
that's just like that tells me right there that uh we are not really in control of who's getting in that office,
no,
because it's almost the puppet master is playing a pretty, a comedy, like every time. It's just
yeah.
like the most absurd thing that would ever
They're
happen.
just laughing at us, man.
Yeah, somebody is.
They're they're yeah. They're just wagging their dick all over the place, and if you say anything about it, they'll just fucking kill you in broad daylight in front of everybody.
Yeah,
And
don't
that's
step out of line.
and I noticed there's a lot of great my friend and producer of the show Neef, he one of the things he talks about a lot is musicians. Uh you know magical musicians, which it's all magic, but like there have been so many people to say what's going on
Hmm.
in a song and not instead of me telling Alice, uh, Alice, this is what's going on. You need to panic and freak out. It's like,
Hmm.
what about this groovy tune? And it's like, that way you can hear this message and digest it for the people that can't handle the mental breakdown. Plus, if you're not, if you're not, you can play that game with writing the line. They can get
Hmm.
you if you say certain things like coming on here.
Yeah.
But if you put it in a song and phrase it a certain way, I mean that's how like in the hip hop scene, that's how rappers they get away with talking about shit, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I ran across like a TikTok video of like a hip hop producer, like just going on this huge rant. It's like, yeah, there is, the Illuminati is like running the all the record companies, and I was like, man, it was pretty crazy, but
yep.
you know,
That's like I'm about knowledge and freedom, and I'm about grassroots operations, small business.
mm,
um Anyone that is doing something themselves, and that is I'm not definitely not downing anyone who gets on a label, like even a major label, like good for them, but
mm-hmm.
I like to see that's what I like to see. I hate to see mom and pop things get run out by McDonald's. It breaks my
Oh
heart.
yeah,
So, and there's a lot of that in this city we're seeing, and talking about Nashville, and
yeah,
like yeah. The other thing, like, I've noticed is a lot of bands can get really like clicky in this area where they only play with other bands and like only play at certain venues and they don't branch out, which is, their loss because they could spread out their market more. But, you know, all of us, and when I say all of us, I mean the entire human race, we're all on the same team and we have to be.
Yeah.
We have to be together. And, anyone, including our government, especially our government that says we need to be divided and fight each other, is the
Mhm.
problem. That's the
Yeah.
thing to attack, is the thing trying to divide people.
I absolutely agree. I mean,
Yep. Uh,
it,
yeah.
well, I will say this. I get pretty um judgmental about like musical conversations. So I'm okay with division on that. But at the end of the day, I will admit that uh that you know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all conjecture, so
Mhm.
it's okay. But I agree with you. Yeah, yeah. Um, everybody wants to, you know, the shadow government wants to conquer and divide, and break down and keep people in a, you know, sense of fear, war,
Yeah.
famine, you know.
Yep. Yeah. It's like the war we're fighting is a giant psyop where like we're all just how much wool can they pull over our eyes and keep us distracted. So they put, you know, this mannequin or this marionette over here and this
Mhm.
marionette over here, and they make them dance, and then we both go ooh ah, and then we're both
Mhm.
distracted from what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, I was gonna tell you another story that's really helped me with my depression. Have you ever seen that movie Get Out?
Uh no, I've not, but I bought it on DVD specifically to watch it because after I watched like Us, and I don't know why I
Mm,
watched Us before I watched
mm,
Get Out, but I think because my wife and I agreed to watch it together, and then she ended up. I was out of town, and she watched it first, so I was like, well, "Okay, well, when am I supposed to watch it?" And it's been
yeah.
sitting in my DVD collection forever. But anyway, I want to say thank you for sharing that DMT story. That was
Oh, no problem.
pretty amazing, um,
Y-
and it definitely tells me that I would not be mentally prepared for anything of that sorts.
You
So,
know, it doesn't always happen like that, but I will say I've noticed if someone's got some issues they need to work through, that's what happens
mhm,
to them the first time, a lot of the time, is they get their ass handed
uh,
to them. Not
well,
exact not exactly the way it happened to me, but in some way or
yeah,
another, they get a message, kind of like a s see, that to me was like that was an old, I don't wanna say my grandma, but that was an old lady, like a friend. Imagine you're a little kid and a friend of your grandma's catches you doing something that you shouldn't be doing, and she gives you the sternest telling you've ever had in your life, and you're just sobbing, and she's like, "No, you need to understand what I'm telling you because you get hurt or for whatever reason." And you
mhm,
know she loves you, and she's doing this for your well-being, but it hurts so bad, you know?
mhm,
That's what it's like, and I think that's an experience that, yeah, something like that is what a lot of people get the first time if they have something that they've got, weighing on them.
yeah. Well, um, before you get into your story,
Yeah, go ahead, man.
the 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 dream that I was referring to, the dream was after I had consumed an edible. So, uh, yeah, that was like the first time, and it, like you said, it allowed me to work through, you know, being in a super depressed, super dark time in my life. So I mean, I know that I know that that's a totally different, um, animal as far as uh, DMT, but it still was the exact.
Mhm.
It's a similar result, like totally, uh, like life changing and life
Yep.
altering.
Yep. I think, like we were talking about earlier, like, I don't really there's a fine line, and I'm not, a doctor, this is not medical advice or anything, if you're having issues,
Mm-hmm.
see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, go get some help, Alice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's like a real fine line between schizophrenia and being interacted with by like some kind of spirit, like possession or hearing a voice of something that's actually there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like there is crossover with these two things, I believe. And it's hard to like, or who the fuck knows? Maybe it's all in your head and
Mm-hmm.
it's all schizophrenia or some kind of medical disorder. Or, maybe it's all some kind of thing going on that we don't understand very well. And like, um, oh, I brought that up because we were talking about edibles and like uh psychedelics and hallucinations. And I think, there are hallucinations, like, when you're drunk, it's like you see things spinning around you. That's not objective reality, and you can observe that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there are hallucinations like, you take mushrooms or LSD, the colors are more intense. I've actually seen colors. I was looking at a tree one time and colors were bleeding out of the leaves. So like outside of the leaf, well, like the green that was on the leaf was still on the leaf, but now it was spreading out into the air around it. So like the air around the leaf was green also.
That's crazy.
So like yeah, that's a hallucination, I think. And like, but there are certain things where it's like, um, I don't think it's a hallucination. You're looking at objective reality. It's just these things can open up your mind to different perceptions. That
Mm-hmm.
can be the case, I believe. And like what you're talking about, like, these things are medicines a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like cannabis, psilocybin mushrooms, like even MDMA, like has been shown, like they're doing that with PTSD and soldiers, man. Like, like the thing about mushrooms is you might have a bad trip and it might kick your ass, but if you can survive that, it's kind of like it's confronting your demons and like getting past it. You can get over it. And it's
Yeah,
like, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, they're like finding out, just now, like with microdosing and for all the like PTSD and uh with a lot of those debilitating, like mental disorders that a lot of these psychedelics are in microdosing is like really helping those people out, and it's a it's an absolute shame that the pharmaceutical, giants are, because they have so much weight and control over, the US market and the world market, that you're going to be prescribed like Zoloft or something of that nature, more something than like natural that's grown in nature to put in your body, uh compared to something that's like a mushroom. Or I mean, it's just, it's pretty, the way I see it is it's pretty should be pretty simple, but you know pharmaceuticals are pushing their manufactured chemical for you to put in your body to subside your you know enter any mental disorder, A, B, C, or D, uh, so they can, push off the side effects of whatever mental disorder you have. And um, I hope to one day see, where uh, natural, um, you know, resolutions to those disorders are really looked at and really thought of as answers to problems that's been here for ages.
A lot of the things they push on us will kill you faster. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of them. I mean, like weed's never killed anybody, and something like DMT or mushrooms, those are Schedule A substances. That's like up there with, no, I think that's a higher class than like things like heroin and cocaine. It's like the government doesn't want us to have these things, but it's not because they're bad for us. It's because they do things for your mind. They open up your mind,
Hmm.
and they open up your mind in unpredictable, uncontrollable ways.
Hmm.
The ways that they can't as easily manipulate. And
Right.
yeah, that's why they're illegal. See, where the hippies messed up though in the 60s is like people like Leary saying, drop out of school to take LSD is
Hmm.
not helpful. That's quickest fucking way to get it all shut down. And it's also not good advice. Like, don't drop out of school. Just do drugs and go to school.
Yeah.
But like I think that's the problem a lot of the hippie movement had is they're like all in on fuck choo choo LSD all fucking day.
Yeah.
Like okay, chill. You're scaring everybody like really
Yeah.
bad. You're telling everyone that you can have telepathic conversation with each other and you're like seeing entities float around
Hmm.
like no one wants to hear that. You're scaring us. So
Yeah.
like I think we're kind of we're finally getting back around where it's more commonly talked about and accepted. It's still a fight we're having to get to, but you know, like you were talking about, it all comes down to control and money. Like the pharmaceutical company makes
Hmm.
way too much money. The pharmaceutical industry makes way too much money to let, I was gonna say cannabis, but we're getting there finally. To let, it's getting there, but it's a fight. They're pushing back on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll we'll see significant change in that, but I don't know. Um what so I know that I diverted, and I
You're
apologize,
good.
but
No problem.
you were about to tell another
Oh yeah.
story, your second story, and I wanted to get to that
Yeah.
because I like
Hey.
really enjoyed hearing about that first story, so I didn't want to miss out on that. Or but
Hey man, this we're going all kinds of rabbit holes tonight. We'll get to
yeah.
them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had taken another substance that wasn't DMT, and
Hmm.
I watched this movie Get Out. And this was recently. This was probably like 8 months ago, maybe.
Hmm.
And I hadn't watched it for a while because it kind of looked okay. I wasn't like
Hmm.
too sold on it or anything. But a friend of mine recommended it to me, and so I put it on and um taking Molly and watching horror movies, specifically one like that is not I don't recommend, especially not that one. Because
Uh-oh.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you. I'm just gonna say
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's almost the same situation as like the spoiler dropper for what was that other movie we were talking about? Leonardo DiCaprio was in it. That came out in like '06. Uh Starts with the I.
Inception.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry because I feel like that Get Out's been out for a really long time, and you're wanting
Oh.
me to you're wanting to like go into the storyline, but I'm sitting over here hadn't seen it and it came out like 10 years ago.
Oh, no,
But
you're good. I won't say anything about it. Well, this one little thing. Uh, there is, uh, there's a scene, that involves hypnosis,
mhm.
and it's this one scene, but it the movie got around to this scene, and one of the characters is putting the other character under hypnosis,
Mhm.
and I'm convinced that this film is trying to put the audience under a spell as well. And I feel I'm not I'm not aware of that at first. It starts and the way it starts, the character isn't aware that it's happening either. She kind of tricks him into it.
Mhm.
So like she kind of lulls him into it and uh at a certain point he kind of goes like, "Wait a minute. Have we already started?" And when he did that, I was like, "Wait a minute." Like, that kinda snapped me out of, like, "Whoa, I feel really, like, tranced out, like, meditative right now." Like, really fucking malleable.
Mhm.
And, like, when he did that, she talks him back into it. And, like, I feel myself get really relaxed again, and I start to panic, so I turn the movie off.
Mhm.
And I I tell my friend, I'm like, "Fuck no, we're not watching that." And, like, and that scared I've never been so afraid of a movie in my life because, when something happens in a movie that is on screen happening to it's fiction happening to someone else, but
Yeah.
I felt attacked. I felt personally attacked by what was happening, and
Oh,
I've seen that movie sober, and let me say, I don't think that's what's happening, and I don't think I'm not saying don't go watch it, but
right.
at the time, I was convinced that's what was happening, and, who's to
Yeah.
say? Maybe if you're in a more suggestible state of mind, maybe that's not the movie to watch.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely, like, maybe I keep that in my conspiracy theory, maybe I keep that in my back of my mind that they're trying to hypnotize the audience, but
No, that's
any
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, you know? I mean,
I don't
and
know,
I
man.
and also, my brain, especially like now, with as much like time I spent on looking into conspiratorial things, it's like my brain kind of works in like two uh two worlds kind of simultaneously. Like I still I still have my like conspiracy uh you know sludge over here that's like working together, like primordial slime working over here. And then I still have my like, you know, straight laced, you know, physical reality, like everyday 24/7 brain going over here. And it's like I can kind of, play off those both simultaneously. So, um, so no, yeah, like I can totally see that
Mm.
happening. But then I can see, it's just a movie. But
Well,
yeah.
like, hit me up whenever you watch it, let me know what you think.
Now I really kind of do not want to watch it. I was like, man, I don't
I
want to be
it's a great movie, you should at some point,
yeah.
but, yeah. But anyway, I was like, "Okay, that scared the fuck out of me," but a couple days later, I was thinking and, I watched it and I was like, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, not a big deal." And I
Mm-hmm.
but it got me thinking. I was like, "Okay, what scares me so much about this concept is that someone else you could be putty in someone else's hands, and, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
scary." It's like a complete giving up of control. Um, it kinda reminds me of when we were talking about channeling and possession.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you want trust and you want boundaries with those kind of things. Exactly like you don't let a complete stranger into your home. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you don't know what that person is capable of, what their intentions are. So just like you wouldn't let a spirit completely take over your body, you wouldn't let a stranger completely take control of your mind. Because there are examples, of old. You don't see them so much anymore, which is interesting, but there are old, videos of like hypnotists turning people into chickens. It's like
Hmm.
I always thought that stuff was interesting, but now I understand it's like anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. After I watched that movie, a couple of days later, I started doing research into it because I was like, okay, what scares me about this is someone else having that much control over me, but maybe there's a way we can do this to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking into it, and yeah, self-hypnosis is a thing. And
Hmm.
the more I started thinking about it, all it is positive affirmations, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I will get that job. I will get that job. But um there's a whole process. It's a little bit deeper than that, But pulled up this tutorial on self-hypnosis, and it was explaining that basically what you do is you get yourself so comfortable that you put your I think it's your left brain you put to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently your left brain filters information and decides what's true and what isn't, but the right brain, uh, just everything it's told it receives is true. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can distract or put to sleep the left brain, you can give the right brain direct orders. So this lady shows you how to hypnotize yourself. So I watched the video, and then after a little while, I tried it,
Mm-hmm.
and I convinced myself to stop smoking. And it's been it's been about 3 months since I've done that.
Wow.
Um, maybe a little bit longer. My time's a little messed up. Yeah, 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 about 3 months. And
Wow. Good for you.
yeah, man, I'm really enjoying breathing, like just clean air. Like that's like the best drug for me right now. Like it feels so good to just like take complete full breaths of air. Like we go through life just taking little just as much as you need, what your body just reflexively does, but you could take in so much more oxygen, and I've been drinking a lot of water, and that makes me
Mm-hmm.
feel like those are the best drugs are air and water.
Yeah. I mean, it's your like body's 60%, water. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
So
I totally understand.
yeah, so I mean, long stories short, the biggest things I've learned to help me with my depression are knowing that, my situation is really good and I have to make the most of what my situation is, if not for myself, for all the people that didn't have as good of a situation as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is breathing. Just full breaths of air makes me feel so much more at peace, and it puts me in the moment too. Like it
Mm-hmm.
makes me present instead of thinking about the past or worrying about the future, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, that's uh, yeah. I mean, I don't really, I can't add anything else. I mean, that's it's like right on the money.
Yeah,
Um,
that's all she
yeah,
wrote.
yeah.
Well, Bran, thank you so much for being here, man. This has been a blast.
Alex, thank you so much, and thanks for allowing me to like just be really honest, and I felt like that we were both like just straight up, you know,
Mm,
honesty, and uh, it's kind of crazy just to hop on to uh, you know, like a Zoom call and talk to, someone I've never met for like
yeah.
2 hours and just like share some pretty intimate stuff, and man, this has been a really cool experience and I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, man. I love doing this, and you were great to talk to. I would love to do this again at some point whenever you got time. Oh,
Yeah.
um, I'll let both of you guys know, because I have an announcement. So I'm starting a book club, and
Okay.
the theme of the book club is books that have been banned from school systems. And basically, I'm going to announce a book at the start of each month. And at the end of the month, we're going to get a group of people together to discuss the book and talk about, um, just talk about it. And
Okay.
the book for March is going to be Animal Farm. It'll be the
Oh,
first book
sweet.
we talk about.
Yeah, that's George Orwell, man. One of my favorites.
So
Uh,
yeah, I'll let you know when we're doing
yeah,
that. See if you're
sign me
busy.
up. Yeah,
Hell
sign
yeah,
me
man.
up.
That's what's
Yeah.
up. Alice, don't sleep on Sleep Nation. They've
Yeah.
got videos up. I'll put them in the description, and they got events. Don't be late. It's a very important date.
That's right. 2022's the out of control dynamic duos year of like uh really making a mark. A comic book and a brand new album. So
Oh, hell
2022.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's got an album coming out. Got comic book. That's fucking
Yeah.
exciting too. Yeah, we'll have
Yep.
to talk about that more in the future for sure.
I agree.
Alice, have a good night. Brian,
See
you
ya,
have a good night
Alice.
too,
You
man.
too.